There's a tidal wave coming.
Eavesdroppin.
Hi there, Michelle. Welcome to all the eavesdroppers. It's the week before Christmas. That's not a song. And all through the house.
Not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
That's the words.
They are the words.
Not the tune.
Not the tune. We have mice.
Do you?
We do. We gave this cat the stolen cat. For anyone who's just tuned in, I'm Michelle, by the way.
Oh, yeah, and I'm Geordie. And we're Eavesdroppin, the podcast.
Yeah, the comedy podcast. You're listening. Yeah. You found us.
Well done.
So for anyone who's been long-time listener, I'm sure you all are, you'll know about cat and mouse dramas. I've got a stolen cat. She's lovely, bit dumb. We gave her a mouse because we had these traps. They're blue ones where the mouse has to actually go inside the trap. And then the little thing comes down.
What's in the trap? Some cheese?
Bit of cheese, bit of Parmigiano or something. And
of course, because you give the cat, caviar and all sorts of fancy things, don't you?
Could even have been truffle brie. I'm not sure. Christ. But anyway, something was in that bloody trap. Anyway, it didn't kill the mouse.
Oh, what's it supposed to do? Decapitate it?
Well, I think it just traps it. It's meant to on its neck, you know. Yeah, but it didn't kill it. And we could hear this bloody mouse just wailing. And so I said to Andres, you've got to get in there and do something about that mouse. He's like, why me? I'm like, I'm not doing it. Yeah. So he went in, got this mouse, picked up the trap, and because the mouse was kind of half dead, it started spinning around. And I've started freaking out, took this mouse outside. It was awful. And I said, you've got to get this cat onto this mouse just let human nature do its course. But I did think that poor mouse, because I said, you've got to let it out of the trap outside. Yeah. And then obviously the cat came and this poor mouse must have been thinking, what kind of fresh hell is this? I thought I was going to get, another chance, a second chance at life, and this cat comes. And, of course, that cat is just playing around with this bloody mouse.
No, I hate this story. Why have we started with this horrible story?
Merry Christmas.
Merry fucking Christmas.
Not all through the house. Not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
Not even a mouse. Well, it sounds like it's time for the jingle.
1, 2, 3. It's Christmas every Wednesday in December. Drop to me, so will you drop with me? Drop.
Sexy Santa in a place to
play.
What a hoot!
Hopefully that's cheered you all up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's try this again. I'm Geordie.
I'm Michelle. This is Eavesdroppin,
the comedy podcast.
Sometimes we have real life true crime and
supernatural.
Murder. And supernatural cat murder.
Talking about cats, let's go on to dogs. Because, Michelle, my dog walking app has been pinging. Do you want to know what the latest on the dog walking app?
What's happened?
It's not an app, it's a WhatsApp, sorry.
Okay.
In case you're confused. So I'm going to read out to you a list of messages that actually came through. I'm not going to name names. That would be a breach in confidentiality.
I think this already is, but...
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't named the group and I haven't named the names, but anyone who's on the group, and there is a listener out there who is, hi Karen, you'll understand what I'm talking about when I say this. First the first person who to speak is number 1. My dog found a pink vibrator in the wreck this morning. The mind boggles. The response to that was, are you waiting to see if someone claims it? The third response was, don't all rush. And the fourth response was, sorry.
Oh, no.
It doesn't usually make me laugh this much, the dog walking WhatsApp. Do you mean don't come too quickly?
Oh, my God. They're getting filthy.
Guys.
They're getting filthy.
The fifth response was, love it. Can't stop laughing. Wondering what doggy uses a vibrator. And the sixth response was, cocker? ?
Oh, no.
Oh
dear.
So they do know how to have a laugh, these guys. They're not all just sitting there, punching their phones in angry texts, talking about foxes and broken hips and how to look after a guinea pig and all the rest of the nonsense that you often see.
Yes. Do you think we should plant a travel pussy in the woods? just to get some response. Imagine a dog just chomping on that and taking it to its owner like, look what I found. No.
I haven't actually seen a travel pussy in the flesh, so I would be concerned about what that, in the latex. I don't know what it would look like, really.
I think you would know. It's an anatomical hairless replica. It was funny. I was talking to someone about this the other day, about the travel pussy, and they were like, I thought it was called a pocket pussy.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that as well.
I'd never heard that. I thought that was quite interesting. I just thought it was a travel pussy.
No.
They were surprised at how cheap they were.
Maybe the travel pussy was the miniature version, the grab and go version, not virgin. Oh my God. Listen, I'm glad that we're laughing right now because today is the first of 2 one-handers. And it's not a fun journey, mine.
Okay.
It's a little serious, Michelle.
Thanks.
It's a little serious. I don't know where we're going to find the laughs today, but I think it's an important story to tell because it is the 20th anniversary of something that happened on Boxing Day in 2004. It is the Boxing Day tsunami, otherwise known as the Indian Ocean tsunami. And I'm going to talk about that today.
Great.
We do natural disasters. We have done them in the past.
We've done quite a few. I've just got to find my laughing gear here. That's all.
It's been a while since we've done them. And also, I've never wanted to really touch on this one because it just feels too fresh and too real and too devastating, really, to talk about. I cannot imagine what it would be like to be in a disaster like that.
No. And obviously, I've seen one of the films.
Have you?
Yeah, it was the one in Thailand, and I think it had that Aussie actress in it. What's her name? Naomi Watts.
What? I'm talking about that today.
Right. Well, I'm not going to talk about it more than you say. I can't imagine what it feels like when you watch one of these and you get a visual green screen, whatever, however they create that film, you do get an idea of what these people were facing.
Well, I could never watch that film, as I go on to tell you later. But in lieu of that, of having to watch the videos, because I did do a bit of watching of videos, actually, Michelle, just to kind of get an understanding of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about the Boxing Day tsunami today. As I said, it's the 20th anniversary, and it happened at 7:59 a.m. local time. But that could be anywhere, because it was many, many countries that were affected by this. It was 1 minute to 1 a.m. in Greenwich Mean Time here in the UK. It was a magnitude 9.1 underground earthquake that caused the tsunami. It struck the northern end of Sumatra in Indonesia. And in case you're wondering, it's basically where one ocean plate slips under another in this big round world of ours.
Right.
And the 2 plates in this case were the Indian and the Australian tectonic plates, comprising a 900-mile fault line and causing the ocean floor to rise by 40 meters.
Okay.
This event.
That's a fucking big rise because...
Yes, it is.
I have been a surfer and a 2-meter wave is fucking terrifying to me. Mm-hmm. And that's with a surfboard.
Yeah.
This is scary stuff. Scary stuff.
Yes, it is.
People.
It is scary, scary stuff. I'm going to try not to make it too scary. I just want to give some information because it was a real interesting journey for me to do this research because, like I said, apart from being absolutely horrified when I woke up on Boxing Day to this news, and also knowing that I had friends who were there, they'd just gotten married, and them and their daughter, their baby daughter, had travelled to Australia via Thailand.
Right.
So they were in Thailand at this time. Yeah. But I think they escaped it. It's somebody who I want to get on the podcast, actually. It's Jørgen.
Oh, wow.
A Norwegian musician, otherwise known as Mono Martian. Shout out in case you're listening. So back to the story, or back to the earthquake, in fact. It was the 3rd largest ever quake to be recorded in Sumatra, and it unleashed a force that was said to be 1,500 times greater than the Hiroshima bomb.
I'm just thinking too, this period, this festive period, this Christmas period, everybody is so happy, full of joy. It's the holidays. You're there to just relax, tropical island. Mm-hmm. These natural disasters are not on our radar.
No. There's no warning, as I'll go on to tell you about. This quake lasted around 10 minutes, and 15 minutes later, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center issued a warning for the tsunami. And around 30 minutes after the quake, a tsunami struck the northern tip of Indonesia, which killed 130,000 people. Its waves are said to have reached 20 to 30 meters. So you were saying before about 2-meter waves being horrifying? These were 30 meters, up to 30 meters high. And unfortunately, the event claimed nearly 250,000 lives across 14 countries. Indonesia bore the brunt, with Sri Lanka, India and Thailand also affected. It also hit Burma, Nicobar and the Andaman Islands and the Maldives and Somalia. They were all affected. And there were tourists, countless tourists in each of those countries who were affected, killed, survivors, lost family members, and, of course, the communities that were absolutely wrecked and ruined.
And also, just thinking about, this is the peak tourist time.
Yeah.
The peak. If this had happened in their winter time, maybe not so many casualties.
Possibly, yeah. There wouldn't be on the beach, that's for sure. Banda Aceh was the worst hit, with more than 60% of its buildings destroyed. I didn't look at the geography of that one, sorry. I know that there's a lot of tourists that were killed, but I know of 155 British tourists who died while they were on holiday in Southeast Asia at the time. Like I said, many more from many other countries as well. Today, Michelle, is not exactly your typical Christmas stocking filler. It's a harrowing reminder of the destruction caused by this tsunami and what it's like to experience it firsthand, the impact on loved ones and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of such a tragedy.
I mean, you've got to dig deep when something like this happens and you're living it. Oh, I can't even imagine.
I know. Sorry, she's already freaking out. I'm hoping to tell some interesting tales. These are people's voices, and I've scoured the internet for lots of interviews and television shows and whatnot and videos to find out as much as I could to give you guys a bit of a rounded idea of what it was like. So on the morning of December 26th, Boxing Day 2004, it was a beautiful sunny day in Khao Lak in Thailand. 2 hours after the quake, the water along the beach suddenly receded. Now, I said before about the warnings. Those warnings weren't good enough to reach these countries. There was a massive black hole. I will talk about that later. But no one knew what was going on. The water suddenly receded dramatically, exposing the seabed and revealing all these stranded creatures like fish flapping, crabs, all sorts of shit left on the sand. People weren't aware of what was happening. They just walked about looking at the sea creatures. And I guess the tourists weren't to know that this isn't normal. They don't know. They're in a tropical country. Then some of them may not have beaches where they're from, you know. Then several giant waves between 4 and 14 meters raged towards the shore so incredibly fast that no one had time to react. These waves moved as far as 2 kilometers inland and reached the foot of nearby mountains. And for over an hour, Khao Lak was submerged under the waves. And this is just one of many countries affected, one of many places affected.
One of many islands, you know. Khao Lak's an island.
Just before 10 o'clock in the morning, Australian Alexa Moses was putting on sunscreen in her hotel room in Khao Lak when her boyfriend at the time quietly announced, "There's a tidal wave coming."
Oh, fuck.
Alexa saw a wall of brown water heading straight for the hotel, and she was absolutely paralyzed by fear, which I think a lot of people experienced the same kind of reaction. Her hotel was on the beach. She could see all of the huts. She was on the 3rd floor, and she saw this wave aiming straight for her level, if not a bit higher.
Oh, my God.
And Alexa, I couldn't find any more information about it because I wasn't willing to pay the money to get into the Sydney Morning Herald, where she tells an entire story, and apparently hers is very detailed and it's amazing. But she is actually on a TV program called I Was Actually There, which is an Australian TV program on the ABC, which you can link up, Michelle. It's episode 2, and they talked to witnesses and survivors from the Boxing Day tsunami. But she carries on by saying, the bungalows on the beach were smashed. We just watched the wave coming in, and we felt it hit the building, which was one of the worst memories I have.
Awful.
Isn't it?
Shocking.
I actually watched a YouTube video, and sorry, Michelle, I lost the link. I couldn't find it again when I went back. But it's footage of a Norwegian man or a Swedish man, I can't remember, and his partner. They're on a beach. I found it really hard to watch because I knew what was coming and they didn't. It's just films of them hanging around, about to go on a boat ride. Loads of kind of like tourist boat guys kind of getting the boats ready. Something's going on in the distance. No one's really sure. This man kept filming as eventually them, as well as everybody else, slowly realized what was going on. They ran into a hotel, which was quickly flooded. Then you could see him grabbing the camera, running up the stairs with loads of people. Then they had to run up some more stairs even higher. And then he filmed as they watched on the ground people, boats, furniture being swept away, only to be smashed again and then sucked back out again, and then smashed again by another wave. It was absolutely shocking.
It's quite prescient to go up, because I imagine if you're frozen with fear, you're like, what do I do? So to go up, and I mean, and that's assuming that your building is high enough.
Or stable enough. I think you have to make a decision and literally run with it in that moment. But a lot of buildings in Thailand are 2, maybe 3 floors. They're not high buildings. Right.
That's not 40 meters. That's going to be engulfed by a tidal wave. So it's fucking terrifying.
And I have a bit more of an idea now of what would have happened and the kind of dangers that are posed, as you would because you've watched the film, having read all of this stuff. But I'll carry on with another article about...
Did he survive?
Who?
The guy, the Norwegian guy.
I don't know. I'm assuming they did because they were up high and they were filming and the film survived.
Yeah.
You know, there was film. Those cameras would have been smashed.
Yeah.
So then I'm going to move on to an article that I read in the UK Women's Weekly, which tells the story of a British couple, Tracy Lee and her partner Luke. They were in Sri Lanka for Christmas in 2004, along with his parents and 4 siblings. And they stayed in the coastal town of Unawatuna, I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly, where they were staying in a raised concrete bungalow on the edge of the jungle. They didn't want that. They wanted to be in a beach bungalow. But the locals had snapped them all up. And of that day, Tracy said, I thought it was a plane because of the noise. I'd never heard anything like it. I woke Luke, so it must have been in the morning, and told him there had been a crash. I was in panic mode. I went onto the balcony where we could see water whizzing along, taking people off their feet. Everything happened so fast. Then I thought it was a flood. The water came. It was a barrage, not a big crest like you see in a film or a painting. It was a mass of black water and debris. I was terrified. I froze. My knees went, and I remember thinking we were going to die.
Yeah.
With no escape route, these guys, Tracy and Luke, watched men climbing the treetops to seek safety and heard other people screaming for loved ones. Tracy and Luke then helped to pull injured survivors onto their balcony. Luke also jumped onto a bungalow below them to rescue the relatives and the hotel owner, Damika. There was about 4 or 5 waves, which after each wave there was an eerie silence. She said it was like Armageddon. The noise came again as the water was sucked back. Oh, I can't even imagine what that sounds like. She says it was horrific. Parents were separated from their children and they had no way of contacting anyone. Tracy says, people were injured. We had nothing to treat them with, just antiseptic cream and ripped up bed sheets for bandages. Luke checked on the rest of his family who were staying around the corner before returning for Tracy. They had no idea if more waves were coming, so they waded through snake-infested waters to make their way up to a complex on a rock where a camp had been made to get to higher ground.
It's that thing of, I wanted the beach bungalow. It saved her life.
It saved their lives. She actually said that in the article.
Yeah.
Tracy said, it all felt so surreal, like a film. An ex-Marine and a doctor were treating the most injured. People had broken legs, limbs bent backwards. We were so lucky. Others were sitting there holding dead children.
Oh,
Sorry.
my God.
One man had a radio and told them the Maldives, India and Africa had gone.
Oh.
So Tracy said, what about the UK? And he said, that's gone too. At this point, she said, we thought it was the end of the world. We didn't know what had happened. We felt so vulnerable. Imagine that, Michelle. You've got no context, no news alerts, no screaming lifeguards. Is it a tsunami or has the world hit self-destruct buttons?
And especially when you've got someone giving you, misinformation like that.
Yes. The confusion could last a while. What would we do? Would we run away or we'd stand there Googling big wave meaning and probably only find a horoscope blog claiming it's a spiritual cleanse or something? Who knows what we'd be doing in that moment?
Well, 2004, I'm not sure how good the coverage was. You know, your internet coverage of people Googling.
Exactly. You might think it's aliens. You might think it's aliens. Michelle, if it was you, you'd probably think you've been drafted into an intergalactic battle and it was all kicking off and no one gave you a news alert.
Maybe. Depends. If it was at night, probably. But during the day, this feels even more frightening.
Or at night, it would be horrific if it happened in their sleep.
It would be worse at night. It would be worse. Yes, it would be worse at night. Everyone would be dead in their bed because you'd be asleep.
Yeah, I would say many more would have died, yeah. And then when you realise what's going on, do you just accept your fate, stand there with your arms wide open, shouting, I'm ready, like you're auditioning for a
Sound of Music
Titanic film? Surf's up. Here I come. Sorry. You have to laugh. You have to laugh. Not laughing at, but with.
You've got to find the humour in this. There's not a lot of funnies.
Not really. I really felt for Tracy and Luke reading their story, just adding that kind of psychological terror, that confusion to the story was something I hadn't even factored in. They didn't know what was going on.
No, and of course all radio communications would be down. Everything would be down. So the information coming in and the information going out, really limited.
Absolutely. Well, they and some other survivors slept on an exposed rock outside, still worrying what was going to happen next. They still didn't know it was a tsunami. All the roads were blocked. There was no way out. Tracy kind of became so frightened she just withdrew into herself until this woman, who was injured really badly, she couldn't walk, basically gave Tracy a verbal kick up the bum. And she needed it. So then Luke and one of his brothers helped to dig a mass grave, which was necessary because the humidity meant that bodies would decompose quickly, which makes diseases like cholera and dysentery spread even faster. Then you've got another disaster on your hands. Tracy said, I helped a lady wrapping the bodies for burial. Some had their eyes open and rigor mortis had set in others. We could see the terror in their final moments. I'm sorry to have to share that, but it's the facts. Despite all this, though, Tracy and Luke have returned to Sri Lanka, and they have said, as with many of these first-hand experiences that I've read about, that the tsunami have changed their outlook on life completely. They appreciate the day-to-day, and many of them have actually changed careers to become aid workers.
Right.
A lot of people I read about.
Because I think you probably feel, I survived this. What's my purpose?
Yeah.
Why did I survive? Am I here to help people?
Exactly. Having been up close and personal.
My experience, yeah. Help people.
So there's another person from the I Was There Australian ABC docuseries, Australian Rebecca Giles. She is a lawyer, I think, and she was on holiday, relaxing with a magazine in her beach bungalow on Phi Phi Island. Is it called Phi Phi? Mm-hmm. When the first of 2 tidal waves washed the magazine out of her hands. And she said, it was like a bomb. The water disintegrated everything in its path. I didn't even see water. I didn't feel any water. I immediately just went into a ball, closed my eyes and braced myself. She was extremely badly injured. She said she was flying arse over head, over leg, over ... She said she didn't know how long she was underwater, but it felt like an eternity, and it was just sheer luck that she stayed conscious.
Now, I will say at this moment, Geordie, being an Aussie girl, having grown up in the waves, have you ever surfed or have you ever been shore dumped or...
Yep, all of the above.
Okay, so you know how terrifying it is.
I do. It's still terrifying to this day, when it still happens occasionally.
Well, even like when you're surfing and you've got a leash on your leg and you get dumped by a wave, like you fucked up and you end up in what the surfers call the washing machine.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like.
Yep, but you've got a surfboard attached to you as well. Thing is, in those really scary moments, you don't know what's up, you don't know what's down, you don't know your place in the water, and all you need to do when you actually get your wits back about you is just think, I need to look where the light is and try and swim towards the light. And it's frightening. Mm-hmm. So this woman to be in a ball and staying conscious, thank God she did, because she would have had no chance otherwise.
Well, she said that she was flung under the waves for what seemed like an eternity, only stopping once she hit a mountain of debris built up against a large hotel that had miraculously stayed standing.
Wow.
Rebecca said, my body was shredded, my bones broken, but I didn't feel any pain. Hours later, she was rescued by the Thai military and rushed to a local hospital where she underwent a blood transfusion and emergency surgery. Brace yourself. without anaesthetic.
Oh, God. Do you know what? It's operate or die in those moments.
And once she got back to Sydney, more than a week later, Rebecca became critically ill and needed daily operations as a result of developing a flesh-eating disease, necrotizing fasciitis, which caused her to slip into a coma. And since that day, Rebecca has had more than 140 surgeries, including tissue transplants and skin grafts.
Fucking hell.
She was told she'd never be able to have children, but in April 2010, she gave birth to a son after she had a fertilized embryo implant.
Well done for her.
That was a happy ending for her. But this is from The Guardian in 2014. It's quite a hard one, but it's not, it's interesting because it's from a child's point of view.
Well, this is it. 2014 is 10-year anniversary. So that's why they're doing that. And I guess if it's a child, they're grown up now with...
Exactly.
Oh.
This is Jamie Aldridge, who was also in the same place as Tracy and Luke in Sri Lanka, and wrote about his experiences as a 13-year-old on the plane on the way home. And in The Guardian, they did a 10-year anniversary, like you said, and they printed people's first-hand experiences. And he says, this is his letter, "Me and my family were staying at a beach hut in Unawatuna, Sri Lanka for Christmas. On Boxing Day at 9 a.m, we planned to go on a snorkeling trip out to sea. We woke up at 8 and got on the boat at 9:10. We sailed out to sea in a fishing boat and kept circling the island while the fisherman explained that the sea was too rough to snorkel and was very dangerous. At this time, we were getting a bit aggravated that we wouldn't be able to snorkel. At the bottom of the fishing boat was a small square of glass down into the sea. We kept looking in it. It looked dark and sandy, so we couldn't see through it. My Aunt Becky was very seasick at this time and wanted to get off the boat. The fisherman went to take us back to shore, and the sea had become so rough it was swirling around like mini tornadoes. So the fisherman sailed us around the corner to another city called Gali, I don't know how you pronounce that. When we got closer, 3 fishing boats shot out of the mist shouting, 'Go, go, out to sea, now, wave 100 feet.
Oh, my God.
Wave, go. We hadn't a clue what was happening, but we took their advice anyway. We sat in a boat out to sea with my aunt being sick, my mum worried, my dad laughing about the whole affair, and my grandma was reassuring my aunt. We waited 2 hours for what we thought was just a rough sea. We glanced at our hut and the hotels on the beach and realised that it was all destroyed. Fuck knows where they were. They must have been some sort of like cave or something, or how they managed to miss that wave, I don't know.
I wonder if this is like a tornado when you are in the eye of the tornado and it's calm. I wonder if somehow they lucked into that.
Well, he goes on to say, still at this point, we did not realise the extent of the damage. We sailed towards the beach where TVs, tables and domestic equipment were in the sea.
Fuck.
I caught a glimpse of something floating in the sea, and when we got closer, oh, this is terrible, I realised it was the bodies of a baby and an old man.
Oh, no.
Sorry. I was first off the boat, and I ran to where the men were pointing for us to go. A man pulled me up onto a ledge, and then we ran through a broken-down restaurant to a plot of land where all the waiters were. We got to know the waiters very well during our stay, so they were concerned about us and were glad to see us all alive, as they had all suffered dramatic experiences on land.
Yeah, right. It's so strange. I would have thought being out to sea was a death wish.
They'd be fucked. Yeah.
That was a death sentence.
My family ran over to me and we were all told to run up the street. I had no shoes because I'd left them in the room, so I was running barefoot until a kind middle-aged man looked at my feet and gave me his own shoes.
Oh.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
My mum and dad began to run and so did I. We still didn't know what had happened. We ran up the street where some locals stopped us and took us inside to eat and drink. We were sitting down in their yard when tourists and locals began to run in horror. Another wave was coming.
No.
The people that were looking after us took us along an alley to some trees with ropes, which led up to a mountain. Fucking lucky.
Wow.
We stayed there until the streets were safe. In the mountains, there were a few families and we were lucky to be up there. We were told by passing tourists to go to the temple to get food. After 3 hours of watching homeless, upset, missing children and adults walk past, my dad and uncle went to find a safe hotel to stop the night in. After that, we went to visit our broken-down beach hut to try and find our things. I suddenly felt very emotional. It's really hard reading this. I found some clothes of mine in the wreckage. My mum found her favourite picture and some of her clothes. Most things were destroyed, missing, or 300 yards up the road. Everything was now getting a bit emotional, and my mum began to cry as she looked at the damage that nature can do to our civilization. We were reported as missing on the BBC. They said that a British teacher and his family were on a boat that went missing. This was us. My uncle is a British council teacher, so we had people looking for us. We are extremely lucky to get away from the disaster that has killed thousands.
I can't even believe their story. It sounds almost too good to be true because certainly, as I mentioned earlier, to be in the ocean at that time, I would have thought they would be flung around like a rubber duck on the ocean and just destroyed. That boat would have been absolutely torn to shreds. The fact that they're alive and managed to get to the top of a mountain, it sounds like they had the ease.
What's with the ropes?
Well, I mean...
They must know that this shit happens.
Or who knows? Maybe there's other things going on. I mean...
Tigers or...
other situations, other natural occurrences. But, you know, I mean, I guess they had provisions for something. But for this family to have really just grazed the surface of this natural disaster, it's a fucking miracle.
So they were obviously being thrown around in the water. That's why Auntie was throwing up and everyone's freaking out.
Yeah.
Except for Dad, who's making jokes.
Yeah.
Good one, Dad.
But even still, I don't think they experienced the absolute terror and horror that the people on the beaches experienced. They got off lightly. Thank God for them.
We got a bit bleak, we got a bit dark, we're two birds yakking, just having a laugh.
Well, as you said earlier, Michelle, there is a film about this, a dramatised film. It's called The Impossible. It was made in 2012 and it starred, like you said, the Australian lady, Naomi Watts, and the Scottish man, Ewan McGregor.
Oh, yes, he was in it.
Yes, he was in it too. And guess who else was in it?
Who?
Little Tom Holland in his first ever role, Spider-Man, who I thought went to my daughter's school, but he didn't.
Right.
He is from Southwest London, though. That was based on the Boxing Day tsunami events. Like I said, I haven't watched it, and I probably never will. And it captures the moment the tsunami made landfall in Thailand, the second location after Sumatra, which was first hit, and where almost, like I said before, 100,000 people were killed instantly. When the tsunami reached Thailand over an hour later, waves were still travelling at 500 miles per hour, and nearly 5,400 people in Thailand lost their lives, including 2,000 foreign tourists.
Oh, God.
So the film is actually based on the real-life experiences of Maria Bellon, a Spanish doctor, her husband Enrique, and their 3 sons, who were aged 10, 8 and 5 at the time, and they were staying at the Orchid Resort Hotel in Khao Lak. Is that the one that they based the show that everybody loves?
The White Lotus? No, I don't think so.
Isn't there a hotel they actually based it on, that show? I haven't watched it.
I'm not sure because it's obviously in all different locations. The later series was filmed, I believe, in Thailand. Or was it in Bali? It's somewhere in Southeast Asia, but it hasn't been released yet.
Oh, so there's 3 series.
Yes. Gosh, where's the first one?
Hawaii?
First one's Hawaii, I think. The second one is Sicily, Sardinia, Sicily maybe. And yeah, the third one is Southeast Asia somewhere, but it hasn't been released yet. But it is absolutely fucking brilliant. That's a great telly-rec.
I might give it another go, actually.
What do you mean another go?
Well, I've tried 3 times to watch the first season and I've got as far as the teenage boy on the beach.
The teenage boy on the beach. Give it a go. It is absolutely one of the funniest, most wonderful things I've seen.
I'll make the family sit down and watch all 3 series. So going back to Maria Bellon, her experiences, the Spanish doctor who The Impossible was based on, her kids 10, 8 and 5, her husband Enrique, they were staying at the Orchid Resort Hotel. I've said all that. They were in the pool, around the pool, as you know, because you've seen the film. They were around the pool when it happened, just like in the movie. In fact, Ewan McGregor said that the positioning of the actors in the film was exactly as Maria and Enrique and their 3 kids were on the day.
Oh, really?
Maria said, "We started to hear a very horrible sound. I was looking around thinking, maybe this is just in my mind. No one recognized the sound. I felt like the earth was coming apart, but everything looked perfect. I was facing the sea and saw a huge black wall. I didn't think it was the sea. I thought it was just a black wall coming at us." Again, that fucking psychological confusion. It's like seeing something you've never seen before. Your head's trying to make sense of it. As you probably know, she was actually reading on a lounger at the time, and her husband was in the pool with the sons, with the kids. And then the wave came, smashed her into a plate glass window, which exploded behind her, and she was swept right through the hotel. And she says she remembers being pushed against walls. She could feel them trembling and breaking, feeling them give way one after the other. Some of the walls didn't collapse, and that's why people died. They were trapped. She said, I was under the water for a long, long time. I was not in physical pain, but the drowning sensation was like being in a spin dryer. The doctors said I was underwater for more than 3 minutes because my lungs were absolutely full of water. And in fact, in the film, I think you see Naomi Watts' character throw up weeds and all sorts of things at one point.
Yeah. Look, it was a long time ago. It was probably...
Why did you go watch that film?
Oh, I think I just watched it on my laptop. I didn't go to the cinema, that's for sure, because I think that huge Cinemax kind of experience of these waves coming at you.
I'd have run out of the cinema.
Can you imagine if that was a 3D?
I would have run out of the cinema, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think people would be screaming, and especially with all that crazy sound, because, you know, you've talked a lot about sensorial stuff.
Yeah.
The crashing and waves. I mean, it's a good film. I would say you probably should watch it. Now that you've heard the worst, you've read the worst.
Yeah.
I don't think you will be as shocked by that film. But don't let the kids watch it.
No, I won't.
No.
Because they'll never go to the beach again, I can guarantee it. So, like I said, her lungs were full of water. She said, I saw many lights under the water, tunnels with lights at the end that people tell you that they see when they are going to die.
Oh, God.
After being swept away, Maria clung to a palm tree. She was absolutely beside herself at this point because she found herself alone.
Yeah.
And she had no children anymore, husband. She thought they'd all perished. But then she saw her oldest son floating nearby. She said, when I saw Lucas, I thought, okay, I have an incredible reason to be alive. We were in the water struggling and Lucas was screaming, we're going to die. I could feel something incredible and I said, we need to be courageous. We need to take care of each other, but we will not die. Lucas was 10 years old at this point. She said he was very brave. Maria's injuries were really bad, and the impact of the wave broke her nose, ripped the flesh off her leg, caused bleeding in her kidneys, bladder, and intestines. And she says, I was dying. I could feel it happening to me. When I was up the tree, bleeding very heavily with deep wounds, I could feel the dying process. She's a doctor, right? So she knows. Lucas and I were hugging this tree, mostly in silence, but from time to time he would say, I'm happy, Mummy, that you are with me. I'm happy. And she'd say, I'm happy I'm with you, Lucas. Oh. And it was one of the most beautiful moments of my life.
Yeah. But also because you're facing uncertain death. It is uncertain. She's like, I don't know in an hour if I'm here.
I'm still alive now, but yeah.
Chill bumps.
Oh, gosh, yeah, same here. A Thai man found them and rescued them. And Maria says, this man would not allow me to die. He dragged me through the mud for a long time till he was sure I was in good hands. Meanwhile, hubby Enrique had lost the other kids. He'd been in the pool, as you know, like by the pool. And he had them, the two youngest ones, in his arms. And then the wave tore them apart. As he was being pummeled by the waves, he remembers thinking, that's it, I'm not going to make it. But he said he needed to try. He said he saw a light above him, so he tried to push himself up and get his head out of the water, much like what you said earlier, Michelle. And then he surfaced in the torrent more than half a mile downstream from the hotel.
Fuck.
He said the only thing I could see was water in the tops of trees and I was alone.
No.
He thought, there is no way my children have made this. And he started to cry. And then he thought, why are you crying when there's no one to comfort you? So he managed to grab a tree and he thinks that he was there for around half an hour as the waters raged past him. But then he heard Thomas's voice. He said he heard, Papa, Mama, Lucas, Simon, this little kid's calling. He was 8 years old, Thomas, and he was perched on top of a tree about 200 yards away from Enrique. Enrique swam over and he figured that they were the only two to have made it.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, they shouted out the rest of their family's names in hope, and after about 40 minutes, they heard little Simon's voice. This poor little thing was only 5.
Oh, my God.
He had just learned to swim, and somehow he had managed to escape up a tree as well.
Wow.
Sadly, though, he was near 2 corpses. One didn't have an eye. When the waters finally receded, Enrique rushed the children to safety on the roof of their hotel. And meanwhile, they didn't know this, but Maria was in surgery. And afterwards, the overworked staff misidentified her as a British woman who died. And they wrote that woman's name on Maria's arm.
Oh.
Yeah. And sadly wrote Maria's name on the arm of the dead British woman.
Oh, gosh.
So when Lucas returned to her room to find her, she wasn't there anymore, and he thought they'd taken her away because she died. And it was the first time he actually properly panicked. He said, "I thought I was completely on my own, for there was no question in my mind that my father and brothers were dead."
Oh, gosh.
However, happy days for them. They were finally reunited 2 days later in the hospital, where she was being treated for severe injuries to her thigh and chest. She was really bad, really badly off. In the aftermath, the family spent 6 months sleeping with the lights on, and poor little Simon had nightmares about monsters without eyes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's going to fuck you up.
Absolutely. Now, you might remember from the film, you probably don't because you seem to have forgotten it already.
Yes, I have.
While Maria was trying to get to safety with Lucas, they found a Swedish toddler named Daniel who'd been trapped under debris. And Lucas was so petrified at this moment of more waves coming, he wanted to run to safety, especially because his mum kept losing consciousness. However, Maria had the presence of mind to bring little Daniel with them, which taught Lucas an important lesson. He's grown up to be a doctor now.
Oh,
like his mum.
Amazing.
Yep. And eventually Daniel was reunited with his father in the hospital, but his mother had died in the water. And I think at one point Maria did send a letter through the paper to the dead mum, just saying we didn't deserve to live and this was crazy what happened and all this kind of stuff, because she's obviously got a lot to process.
Yeah, of course.
It's been incredible.
The fact that she had the strength mentally and physically to save another child.
I know.
I mean, you've got to dig deep for that.
Exactly. She said to him in the moment, "This could be one of your brothers. Imagine if people just walked on by. We can't be those people."
Yeah, of course. But it takes a lot when you are struggling for your own life and to save the life of your child to dig deep and save another life. Someone who is a stranger. I mean, that is the human spirit right there.
And that 10-year-old boy had to carry his mum and the toddler through all this mud until the Thai man found them.
Eavesdroppin', eavesdroppin',
Drop it like it's
oh,
hot.
eavesdroppin', eavesdroppin', droppin' and eavesdroppin',
Drop it like it's hot. So in 2004, tsunami science was still new, with only about 100 experts worldwide, and this is according to Eddie Bernard, who was the director of the Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory at the time. They had established a tsunami warning centre for the Pacific Basin, but like I alluded to earlier, Michelle, there was a big gap because some countries had no warning systems, such as Indonesia, Thailand, the Maldives, Sri Lanka.
Yep.
That's why it took them all by total surprise. And Bernard said, the challenge wasn't just about the speed of the warning, it was that there were no established communications on the other end.
Yeah, of course.
So they sent out the message, here comes the tsunami, because in some places it was 3 to 5 hours before the waves hit the countries.
God, so there was time.
There was time, but it didn't reach them.
Yeah.
So obviously they've realised the need to plug those gaps. And since 2004, they have collaborated for better systems, collaborated with the countries to protect vulnerable regions. That's all now been taken into account. But what would you do if you were in that situation, Michelle? Remember, a lot of these people there didn't know what was happening until it was too late. And even while it was happening, they hadn't a clue. Like, was this the end of the world? Is there a big black wall about to hit me? What's happening? Is there aliens? Is it the end of the world? What do we do? Where do we go?
Look, I think a lot of this has to do with your own personal fight or flight response. If you have actually the opportunity to be able to act on that.
Fight, flight, or freeze, Michelle.
Well, this is what I was going to say. There is also freeze. And I worry for myself. I'm not trying to be flippant about this because I know that on the podcast we have talked about the green chicken.
Huh?
Now, when I was a kid, I begged my mum one Easter when we'd gone to the market in Belconnen. They had these little tiny chicklets.
Oh, yes.
Baby chickens.
Chicklets. They're just called chicks, I think.
Little chicklet. Little baby chicklets.
I want a baby chicklet and I'd like a big chicklet for dinner, please.
A little baby chick.
They're called chicklets, aren't they?
A little chicklet, a little chickadee. And they were pink and orange and blue and green.
They coloured them for Easter.
With, food colouring. So,
Nice. You bastards.
So I begged and cried and I got a green chicken.
Good, because you emotionally
Manipulated
blackmailed
Jen.
and manipulated Jen.
Yes,
yeah.
I did. And she had no money or interest in a fucking green chicken. But I begged and cried, I want that green chicken.
I am not moving till I get a green chicken. Why green? It was the only colour left?
I don't know. I guess I had a little connection with that one and I wanted that green
locked
chicken.
eyes.
Yes, and I thought that's for me. So I got this green chicken. I was so in love with this chicken. I took it in the Datsun 180B. We went home. I was playing with this chicken and I thought, we had 2 cats. Right?
Oh, fuck.
And I was like, right, I need to make sure the cats don't go anywhere near this chicken.
Don't eat my chicken.
So we had a kitchen where there were 2 doors, one into the hallway, one into the lounge room. I scoured the kitchen, made sure there were no cats.
Oh, I don't want to hear this story, Michelle.
Well, I closed both doors and then I let the chicken run free. Well, I guess I didn't check because the cat jumped out of the washing basket where it had been hiding and immediately just fangs to the jugular of that fucking chicken. That chicken died instantly. And going back to the whole point of this story.
Did you get in trouble for that?
I froze.
Right.
I froze. I remember as a child, and I must have been 6, maybe 7. I went to scream and nothing came out.
Nothing came out.
I went to run to save that chicken. I couldn't move. And it has been a very terrifying and scarring incident in my life. Scarring because I lost my chicken, but terrifying because I don't know what my fight, flight, or freeze response will be when in a real disaster. I will also tell you that when I was in a car accident while I was at university, just a small one, I experienced time slowing down.
That's what happens.
So all of these things that you read about, I've experienced some of these things and they're worrying. They're not, I'm a hero and I'm going to save my green chicken. I froze and I couldn't scream. No sound came out. So these people on the beach, are they frozen? Are some people literally petrified?
Yeah.
Stuck to that position, unable to scream. I don't know what I would do. And I don't think any of us know until we're in that situation.
God, no.
I'd like to think I was a hero. I would like to think that I would be...
Screaming at everyone to get off the beach.
I would be Wonder Woman,
Run.
you know, screaming, come on, grabbing children, you know, saving people, saving my family, saving myself.
Get up high, go further inland. I don't think you could outrun this thing, even if you saw it coming.
No.
I don't think you could. There is a YouTube video, though, Michelle, that does give you some advice, and I will give you the link for it.
Thank you.
This guy gives a lot of advice on YouTube, and it's all accompanied by his own animation, kind of like blocky, kind of Minecrafty kind of animations to show you. I don't know how seriously you should take it.
Okay.
It's pretty basic, but I'm going to give it to you.
Okay.
He says, if you see the sea level rise, run. Don't run for your car because traffic will be bad. Stay on foot. Avoid large groups of people in case of a stampede. And when the water reaches you and surrounds you, you are now in the danger zone. No shit.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Then he says, but worse is still to come.
Yay.
Thanks for that as well. At this point, you should look for a solid building and climb as high as you can using steps or a ladder, not relying on lifts or escalators as the power is probably down. So that's your information on how to escape.
You did say it was basic. I mean...
It's pretty basic, yes.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking somewhere like Thailand, everything, like you say, is very low level.
Yes.
As I said, you can't outrun it because it was all the way up to the base of the mountains in some places.
Yeah.
You were going to get caught up in it no matter what. You needed a tall, strong building. And if you didn't have them, what then? Trees. People did hang on to trees, but you'd have to hold on pretty fucking tight and you couldn't have a toddler or a baby in your arms. So, yeah, it was basically game over for a lot of people, as we know.
Absolutely. And, you know, this does also remind me of an avalanche and avalanche danger because you cannot outrun an avalanche. You can't outski an avalanche.
It's a frozen tsunami.
Yeah, it is. And just like a tidal wave, a tsunami, it destroys and gathers whatever is in its path. So when we had an avalanche in the village at Easter this year, 2024, it took out trees that were under the snow.
Wow.
the people who were killed in this avalanche, they had no chance because they were smashed against those trees.
Oh, that's what happened with the hotels.
Yes, exactly. It gathers debris. It's just a force of its own. And unlike, an island where you have potential for maybe trying to climb up something, in an avalanche, you've got 2 skis on your feet. Mm-hmm. They're anchors weighing you down if they're not popping off. And there's no air. It's like when you're underwater under the ocean. And honestly, nature is the most glorious and powerful and terrifying thing when it goes wrong.
We've got to have a healthy respect for nature, absolutely. But I hate for people to have listened to this podcast today and be frozen with fear about going to the beach or what if.
Was that a pun?
What did I say? Frozen with fear.
Frozen with fear. We're just talking about this bloody avalanche.
I do accidental puns. I don't even know I'm doing them. But on this 20th anniversary of the Indian Ocean tsunami, this Boxing Day, I, for one, will certainly be taking a moment to reflect and honour the memory of the thousands of lives lost in one of the most devastating natural disasters in modern history. That day and the events of that day profoundly changed the communities affected, leaving a lasting impact on the world, and it serves as a reminder of our shared humanity and fragility of life.
I would agree with that. I think too, it also reminds you tomorrow is promised to no one, to none of us. We need to enjoy what we have, our health, our lovely daily existence. When you think about what these people went through, nothing is as bad as that.
Yeah.
I got pissed off because, I don't know.
Someone threw beer at me at the Confidence Man gig I went to the other night. How annoying. They were vaping in the audience. God, young people are awful to go to gigs with.
Oh, they were vaping in H&M yesterday.
Were
it was
they?
Disgusting.
Fucking
I know,
disgusting.
these bloody kids. Look, you can let these little minor irritations actually annoy you. I get annoyed all the time. I couldn't find something in my suitcase and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. But
bigger picture.
Ultimately, bigger picture is we are here. We have this gift of life. We should enjoy the people we love, the things we love to do, because none of us know when it can all be taken away. These people went for a Christmas fucking holiday, and that's what they got.
Life-changing or life-ending.
Really life-changing or ending, yes. What a great story, but also fucking heartbreaking.
Well, I want to finish this story up by saying this anniversary isn't just about remembering the tragedy. It's also a chance to celebrate the amazing courage, kindness and resilience shown by everyone involved, from the volunteers who stepped up to help to the survivors who came through stronger. We're honouring their stories and the strong connections that formed during an unimaginable event. And in addition to the ABC episode, there's also a new docuseries on the survivors over on Disney Plus, and it's called Tsunami: Race Against Time. Now, even though I've done all this research, not sure if I can watch The Impossible, not sure if I can watch Tsunami. I'd much rather read things or listen to podcasts than actually see it in all my 5 senses. Find it too triggering. And actually during this story, and I'm sorry if this affected anybody, but actually during this story, I did find myself surprisingly getting emotional a couple of times. Even though I had written this all week, I've been writing this fucking story. So it's affected me. I'm imagining it's probably affected a few of you as well. And for that, I hope you'll forgive me. I just felt it was an important story to tell.
I think it is. And I think it just serves as a reminder for all sorts of things. Hopefully, like you said, this has been a wake-up call to a lot of these more third world countries. They need to get these things in place to be able to act on these warnings. They had 5 hours.
3 to 5.
5 hours to say, even 3.
I mean, Indonesia didn't. They had a lot shorter period of time. They were hit first.
Do you know what? Even half an hour would have saved a lot more lives. You could have got people into the centre, high on the mountain, wherever it was, up those bloody ropes. This has, as you said, served as a warning and a bit of a kick up the arse to get the systems in place. Thank you very much. I won't be rewatching that film. I actually thought I might. I would have to watch that with Andreas. But if I did, he will never go back to Thailand with me.
Really? He'd be that affected?
Well, I just think he would be like, oh, it looks really scary. When we were there in monsoon season. We did actually have a few scary moments on one of the boats.
Did you? Really? What happened?
Well, it was just fucking wild. They weren't going to run the boat that day, and then there were too many people going, we've got planes to catch, and we did too. So we were like, yeah, we really need to be on that boat. And that's the thing, you push for these things, but actually safety is important.
Yeah, exactly. Like the little boy Jamie who said he was really annoyed he couldn't go snorkeling that day.
Exactly. But, again, reminds me of a woman who went climbing where I live on the Matterhorn. No guide would take her. She insisted, this is my only day to climb. I have to climb that Matterhorn. Well, she paid with her life.
No.
Yeah, she died, an American woman. And that's the thing, we all need to respect nature. It's got a life force of its own. Well, thank you very much for your story.
My pleasure. I hope, like I said, it wasn't too upsetting. But we'll be back again next week to bring the funny, I'm sure, when Michelle gives us her one-hander for Christmas Day.
Indeed. And until then, there's really only 3 things left to say.
Wherever you are,
whatever you do,
just keep eavesdropping.
Eavesdropping, eavesdropping, dropping, eavesdropping, dropping, eavesdropping, eavesdropping, dropping, dropping, eavesdropping.